download Microsoft Windows ISO images and how to configure new Windows virtual machines. And as you can see, we have now two virtual machines up and running. One of them has Microsoft Windows Server 2012 and the second has Microsoft Windows 8. The next step will be how to download and install Kali Linux and how to configure a Kali Linux virtual machine. Now, Kali Linux, it's a Linux distribution mainly used for ethical hacking and penetration testing. It includes hundreds of ethical hacking tools. That's why for any pen tester or ethical hackers, he should be familiar with how to use Kali Linux. And you don't have to worry even if you don't have experience with Linux, because the next section, I will be guiding you from scratch how to use Linux. So don't be uncomfortable with installing and downloading Linux, because you're going to get very familiar with Kali Linux. Now let's start by seeing from where should I download Kali Linux. There is two different websites from where you can download Kali Linux. The first website, if we open Google here and we type download Kali Linux, you'll see that we have kali.org from where you can download Kali Linux. Now let me tell you something first, that for Kali Linux it can be downloaded in two different ways. You can download Kali Linux as an ISO image the same way we did with Microsoft Windows. So you can have it as an ISO image, and in this case you will install it in VMware player the same way we installed Microsoft Windows. So you need to create a new virtual machine and associate the CD-ROM with the ISO image. This is one way for doing it. The second way is to install a virtual machine, where all you have to do is to open it from VMware player. You don't need to create a virtual machine. You just need to open it. It's up to you, but since we already tried configuring ISO images, let's try now to download the virtual machine. So if you open Kali Linux website, kali.org, you're going to see that there is a different option for download. So you can download it, depend on what operating system you have. Do you have a 64-bit operating system or 32? And for people who don't know how to get this information, just right click on your computer and go to properties, and from properties you can figure out your operating system, is it 64 or 32. So getting back to Kali Linux, from here as you can see we have different type of operating system and on different platform, so you can download the ISO image from here. For me, I prefer to download this virtual machine since we already tried to how to configure an ISO images. So we can go to Offensive Security website. Those are the people who created Kali Linux, Offensive Security, offensive/security.com. It's from there, from where you can download the virtual machine. You don't need to get the ISO images. And you go to project, and from project there is Kali Linux here. And as you can see in Kali Linux, click on it, and there is you will find the different images for Kali Linux. You have the Kali Linux 64 and 32, and for different distribution. But the only problem here is that it will not be downloaded as a file. You can download the torrent, and using any torrent application you can download the full file. So I already downloaded the image, which is the virtual machine, and I kept it in the external hard drive where I keep all my virtual machine. This is the Kali Linux virtual machine. Now, usually when you download them, it will be compressed, so you need to extract it using any application for extracting. I usually use Vmware. It extracts any file, zip file or RAR file. It's a very effective tool. So it's a free tool. You can download it from the internet. So I'm going to click on the extract, and sorry. right click on Kali Linux, and we're gonna extract files and click on OK. Now, due to the size, it may take few minutes, so let's pause until it finishes the extracting of the file. Once the extraction is completed, you should have a folder here like that. Now let's see how to open this folder. So I'll go to my VMware player one more time. And since this is a virtual machine, we don't have to create a new one. We're just going to click on create a new virtual machine. And I'm going to select, open a new virtual machine. And I will point to the location for my new virtual machine. So we're going to go to my folder here into VMware. And this is the Kali Linux. And you open this file. This is the virtual machine, and he will import the virtual machine. Now it's quite easy because, or actually I prefer this way. If you have a virtual machine on ISO, to choose the virtual machine because it will be configured. You just need to import the machine and open it. So you right click on it, open the machine. And when you get this message, would you like to move it or copy it? It doesn't make any difference, but choose I moved it. And it will open the virtual machine. Now for Kali Linux and the other Linux machines that we're going to use, like Metasploitable and OS Broken Web Application, they have a default password. So when you open the virtual machine, let me show you, you will be requested for a default password. Now I kept all those default passwords in a text file attached with this lecture. And those are, let me show them to you. All the password array. So for Kali Linux, the username is root and password is tour. While Metasploitable, the username is msfadmin and the password is msfadmin. Broken Web App, the username is root and the WASP is WASP Broken Web Application. So for Linux machine, they have a default account, default password. While Windows, you are setting the password yourself while installing them. So let's wait until it starts up and log in to make sure that the machine is up and running. Now while it's running up, I just want to go with you. If you want to repeat the step but using an ISO image machine, Kali Linux ISO image, you can do the same like we did in Windows. So we're going to open the VMware player. So instead of, if you decided to install the Kali Linux instead of downloading the virtual machine and opening right away, so you're going to repeat the same steps as Windows. Create a new virtual machine and click on next, but this time you're going to choose Linux, and from the drop list you're going to choose other 2.6 kernel, this one, and click on next till the end of it. Then you're going to point to the Kali Linux ISO machine. So it will be the exact same steps as we did with Microsoft Windows. But as I was saying, having them as a virtual machine, it's much more effective. So Kali Linux, here you go. Now we're going to type the username, which is root, and the password, which is tour. And it will start in a few seconds. Now, having a virtual machine up and running is much more easier than installing and going through all the steps. In the next lecture, we're going to start configuring the Kali Linux to be able to use it. I mean, you can use it right away, but still you need to do some of the tasks to have the updated Kali Linux virtual machine. So next lecture, I'm going to show you how to configure your Kali Linux virtual machine to be able to use it right away for penetration testing and ethical hacking. Now in this section, I'm going to show you how to configure the VMware player. So what do I mean by configure? Now, as I told you, Kali Linux is one of the main ethical hacking and penetration testing tool. And it's a Linux distribution that has hundreds of vulnerability assessment and penetration testing tools. But the only problem is because those tools keep getting updated. So maybe the virtual image that you downloaded, it's kind of old. And some tools has been updated or upgraded, or even some tools has been added. So how can I update my Kali Linux machine so it will have the latest and greatest tool? We can do that in two different steps. And one more time, if you are not familiar with Linux, you don't have to worry. We have a specific section explaining everything related to Linux. So you'll get very familiar with Linux. Just follow me on this lecture, and then later on, you'll be able to dive deeply into Linux. So I already have my virtual machine up and running. I can maximize my screen, so it will take the full screen, which is easier to manage. And as you can see, we have here a drop list where all the applications are here, and they are categorized. I mean, if you need a reconnaissance tool, it will be in one folder. You need an information gathering tool, it will be in another option. So it got all the tools categorized, which make easier for finding any of the tools. Besides, the most common tools are found in this bar on the left side of the screen, and you can customize it. So this is how it looks like, very similar to Windows, graphical interface and everything. So we can right click on it, right click on the background and open a terminal, because most of our work will be done in a terminal, in command line. Again, you don't have to worry if you are not familiar with Linux and the command line, you'll get very, very familiar with it. Then open a terminal from where you can type the command here. And to update and upgrade your Linux, you just need to type two different commands. But before typing, you can increase the size of the screen so it will be easier to read. So you can click on zoom in like 2 or 3 times, or even choose Ctrl and plus as a short key. Here you go. So we're going to start with the first command, which is apt -get update. So what this command will do is that it will update all the tools in Kali Linux machine. Now, if you are doing that for the first time, it will take time. Sometimes it takes 20 minutes, 25 minutes, even sometimes more. But this is only the first time because he's updating all the tools that need to be updated. And this is why it take time. So this is one of 2 steps that we need to do to update the Kali Linux. So we'll pause until it finishes, then I'm going to show you the second step. In my case, it didn't take that much time because I did that before, so most of the tool was already updated. But if you are doing that yourself, it will take a long time. Then the second step will be the same command, apt -get space upgrade. Be careful that Linux is case sensitive. So if we are writing command in small letter, and all of the commands should be written in small letter, you should write the same letter. If you write them in a capital letter, they will not be executed. Upgrade. And again, it will take time. Now for upgrade, he will keep asking you questions, yes or no. So for all the questions, just click on yes. So he's just upgrading any tools that is outdated or need to be upgraded or something. Again, we're gonna wait until he finish. So now, update and upgrade has been completed, and your Kali Linux machine is updated, and you can start using it for penetration testing. What will be remaining in this section is the vulnerable machine. We need to have some vulnerable machine with different services so we can practice attack on them. So next lecture, we're going to see how to download and how to configure a WASP broken web applications that include a vulnerable web application and Metasploitable, which is a vulnerable Linux machine. So let's see how to do that.